Struggle love is the topic of the week. We have Dababy, we have what's his name, Stacy. We have this random guy shooting at his girlfriend on Instagram, like crazy people. Like struggle love looks terrible. And we're going to talk about it today. We have Nneka Obiekwe, the founder of Vanity, and they do a lot to do with like domestic violence, assault, etc.
Yep. Violence against women, all things violence against women,
Right.
training and conversations in that space.
Okay, so where do we begin? Like, let's start with Dababy. What are your thoughts on Dababy? Okay, so if you're living under a rock, Dababy who he has a 3-month-old child with DaniLeigh, and, you know, he basically earlier this week or last week, depending on when you're watching this, he kicked her out of the house. He went on Instagram Live, told her to get out of his house. It was quite terrible to see. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, so I of course have to look at this from the perspective of patterns. Okay. So from a patterns perspective, even just what we've seen in the media from Dababy, I would say I'm not surprised.
Wow, that's true.
And I think that is something that we often kind of leave out of the conversation is like the person's aggression towards other people, which he's demonstrated in many ways. I mean, he's even attacked fans.
Oh, right. I remember he did slap someone. He shot someone.
He shot someone.
And people are like, oh, it was self-defense. But like, why are you walking around Walmart with a gun?
With a gun. I think he just has demonstrated violent behavior.
Right.
And also kind of a superiority complex above the law. I think getting away with murder can only incite someone to feel as though they are above the law, right?
You think he's violent with her?
I think that's a form of violence for sure. I think that.
Okay, you mean like emotional abuse?
I think there's a level of aggression that's shown there that if someone were to tell me that it has gotten physical before, I would not be surprised.
Right.
And Shawty's not my girl. Ain't never been my girl. Is my side bitch.
It's your what?
My
It's
side
your
bitch.
what?
Shawty is a certified side bitch.
I think that is absolutely like the foundation for either of them, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, I could tell by the way she was hitting the phone that she was violent, so I wasn't surprised when, you know. But what are your thoughts about women being violent as well? Because a lot of women get away with being abusive because, and sometimes it antagonizes these men or provokes them, which I'm not saying that it justifies, but anyone being violent is an issue. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think she definitely showed in the videos that she has some responsibility in the level of like toxic and, you know, dysfunction that they have with each other. I absolutely don't believe in any sort of like relationship violence, be it from a female or from a male. I don't know the details to know how long that behavior has been going on, but I could guess that it's probably been something that they've been dealing with in their relationship for a long time. I think it's probably patterns in her relationships to be with people who, you know, are, you know, it sounds like he cheats, and it sounds like there's a lack of respect, and it sounds like it's been okay for her to react that emotionally and that aggressively in previous relationships and in this relationship.
When you say act emotionally, what do you mean?
I think the what I saw with her getting on and screaming in the background and hitting and everything else that she was doing, and in her mind, she was doing it because she could not control her emotions around the way she was being treated.
I completely understand. In any sort of other situation, I would get that. But with her, she just had a baby 3 months ago, and people have like serious postpartum symptoms, postpartum depression. Some people lose their teeth. Some people lose their hair. I know someone that's bald.
Yeah.
Like, so it could be just a product of her or a result of her condition that she's gone quite emotional. Because I know people that have said they would just be crying and they don't know why they're crying.
Yeah.
After, you know. So like that could be why she was, you know, reacting. Because I can't even imagine being already in that vulnerable state, and then you have this person telling you to pack your things and take the baby and go. That's like that's the worst thing that you can do to a woman, you know?
Absolutely.
Especially in that time frame.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah. I agree.
Right.
I mean, I agree. I think that I just don't think these things happen overnight.
Definitely. So there are definitely signs. And I did a post the other day about like the signs of like, you know, an aggressive person, or at least from my experience, I'm sure like there's scientists that have data that prove other things. What are some of the signs that you've seen, you know, from your experience, since you have more experience in this? What are some of the signs that you think people should look out for in terms of like a violent person?
Because I think violence is on a continuum, right? So you're not only talking about like when you get to the point where someone's aggressive and hitting you, but I think when you talk about violence and the kind of power and control wheel, you're talking about coercion. So people who are manipulating you to do things you don't want to do. That's, you know, we see that in sexual relationships where you maybe the woman is saying, oh, I just want to come over and have fun and just talk to you. And it can turn into, but, you know, you sure you don't want to whatever before you leave? Coercion is a form of violence, right? It's on the continuum.
Interesting.
Possessiveness. So what people might read as this person really loves me and so much that they don't want me hanging out with other people, that they want me to check in, whatever. There are levels of that are just unhealthy and are absolute red flags, you know, early in a relationship. And I think that also there's a level of manipulation, like gaslighting, right? Which I kind of saw in the Dababy, you know, video, where someone does have a right to feel the way they do, and you're calling them crazy. You're minimizing and invalidating their experience to the point where they no longer know if they are reacting in a reasonable way. And oftentimes, in this case, now it's for the public to make, you know, a decision, right? Because he's saying, oh, she's here acting crazy, and she's in the back.
And she's my side chick.
Right, she's my side chick. I mean, he's just, you know, talking crazy to her, and she is in the background, you know, quite frankly, feeding into the narrative that he's saying. But again, we don't know what happened 10 minutes before. What we know is that there's definitely a level of gaslighting that's happening that is portraying, you know, these big emotions in a way that's to make her look crazy. And I think that you can see that early. If someone is early in a relationship, you're trying to express yourself. And what are you talking about? You know, well, what? You crazy. You always doing too much. You know, that's the level of gaslighting, and it gets someone to a point where they don't feel comfortable expressing themselves, being honest about their feelings. They no longer trust their own feelings and emotions. Those things, I think, are red flags early on.
Why do you think people go into those situations? Like, they see these things happening. Why do you think they go into these? Why do you think they still go in these relationships? Do you think it's like a lack of experience? Do you think there's a need for toxicity? Some people need that. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think, you know, I wouldn't want to try to speak for everyone, but what I can say is that we have a lot of images of unhealthy love. I can assure you there are people that are seeing that play out between, you know, Dababy and DaniLeigh and thinking, you know, that's love. I'm trying to remember, there was an example of something that happened recently. Oh, the Quavo and Saweetie on the elevator. There were people who said, that looks like a normal relationship to me. There were a number of comments.
He attacked her, right?
They were fighting on the elevator, and he grabs her, and there were people saying, well, she looked like, you know, she was fighting back, and, you know, this looks like a normal black relationship is what I kept seeing people say. I think that there are, you know, examples in people's personal lives that are unhealthy examples of what love is. It's the only example they might have. They're seeing it down the street. They're seeing their neighbors. They're seeing their friends. And they understand, again, these big displays of, quote, emotion to be just strong love, like love that you can't control, and that there's nothing wrong with loving someone so hard that every now and then, you know, you overreact or you know, you kind of do something in an extreme way. And I think that is, you're hearing that kind of narrative now where you hear women say, I want a soft life. I want a soft love. I want love without stress. You know, I want love without having to prove something and having to go through something difficult. But I do think that there is a history, generational.
So I really want to talk about Black women's affinity, or I mean Black cultures. Like, why is there struggle love in the Black community? And it's not just a thing in America,
right?
You also see it, like, you know, we're both Nigerian.
Yeah,
you see it in Nigeria. So, like, what do you think that's about?
I think, you know, when you think about our parents' generation and the generation before our parents, there was also a level of control that could exist in a relationship simply because women couldn't work. I'm talking about
Right.
Nigeria in particular.
But even here as well, like,
Right.
because
And here, there was a point where women couldn't work, right? That's
Exactly.
where the women's movement started, right?
Right.
So it's like when your entire life, actually, your life, your identity, your income, your children's future
is
is
determined by one
dependent
person,
upon a
man.
person. You learn to do what you have to, and when everyone around you is also doing what they have to, you just learn that this is my place and role in the world.
Right. Exactly.
And unfortunately, now that the feminist movement has begun, and yes, people are getting closer to pay equity.
Right.
Women are able to take care of themselves. Women are able to walk away. The remnants in our culture
Are still there.
are still there.
For sure. I'm just thinking about the whole idea of like, I made a video about this earlier about like women having to submit, and when you look at America is a very interesting place or what's happening right now, especially in the Black community, because now we have like more Black women that are more educated, more financially, stable than Black men generally, right?
Yeah.
In the population, because a lot of Black men in this country have been put in the prison system and just sort of brought down. Sometimes they don't even get the roles in these corporate companies because they would prefer to give it to a Black woman. So as a result of that, it's now women that are higher earners than men or Black men. And I see I've been seeing a lot of these like videos on YouTube, like Mahogany Pink is one of them. I don't know if you've heard of her. Have you heard of her? Go check her out. There are a lot of them that just talk about like how Black women should not have to. There's this mentality with Black women that they have to date Black men. And she's sort of like trying to say, look, you don't have to date Black men, you can date anywhere else, because Black men have no issue dating outside their race. In fact, that's what they do when they climb the financial ladder. So like, why is it that Black women have to pick from,
Yeah. Well, I struggle with that one because I think it's real, right? I think that, first and foremost, everyone should be able to date whoever they want to.
100%.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I do agree with that. And
I think the point is not that you shouldn't date who you want. Like, you shouldn't restrict yourself to think it's only Black men that is in the pool that you can date.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is a level of loyalty that Black women have to Black men, because we also see it in how Black women protect the actions of Black men, whether they're good or bad, right? So even some of these examples we're talking about, you're going to have some women who are just, I'm still going to listen to Dababy. It's not my fault she's crazy. You got people who still listen to R. Kelly. You got people trying to get him, women trying to get him out of jail. And what's always interesting about that is the conversation is these Black men are hurting Black women.
Right.
And that, why have we been, why do we have this mentality where we have to protect them?
Right.
And I think it's complicated because we do know that, like, logically speaking, Black people are disenfranchised, right? Black men, to your point, struggle, and there's a lot of systems that are built against them. And I think that the maternal instinct in Black women is to protect them, especially when you think about your sons and your fathers, the people who you are so close to, you just see them as fragile.
Right.
And I think there is a level of fragility that is overlooked, high percentage of suicide and mental health.
Right. Okay. With Black men in general, definitely, men in general, men are higher chances of suicide. But I wanted to focus on this conversation about submission, right? So especially there's this thing going on online, and I don't know if you've heard of the red pill community, and they sort of spew this idea that women are hypergamous by nature. Well, their whole thing is that the red pill is I don't know if you watch The Matrix, you get the Matrix, the guy Neo was given 2 pills. He could take the blue pill, which means that he goes back to sleep and he doesn't know what's going on, or he takes the red pill and then he's going to be awake to what's going on. So they got that concept from there, and this red pill is being aware of female nature, as opposed to the blue pill, which is what is considered a simp, or all of those things. But I think what's interesting is that the conversation about, most women want a high value man, and a lot of these men are saying, well, most men can't be high value, right? So there's a conflict between women only wanting the 1%, and then men only wanting, or men wanting women, but they don't have the access to those women, right?
Yep.
But then also this idea of like expecting a woman to submit, but you're not able to provide,
Oh yeah.
for her, right? So like if I'm the one that's the breadwinner, I'm the one, like you don't bring anything to the table financially,
Yeah.
but you want submission
Right.
because you're a man,
Yeah. I mean, submission is ego driven for sure.
right?
It's ego, and it's taught. It's just learned behavior. This
Right.
idea that this is how it's supposed to be, and I think we're just of the age where we're like, yeah. So if you can't explain to me why things have to be a certain way,
Right.
not doing it.
Right, exactly. And I'm also an egalitarian, so for me, it's like it doesn't even. My brain doesn't understand
The concept of someone being beneath.
anybody submitting to anybody.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't
yeah.
even make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, I also believe like to each his own.
Right.
When it's healthy and it makes sense.
That's true.
When it's healthy and it makes sense, do what feels good to you. But to your point, you cannot, force your beliefs on another person.
For sure, 100%. But I do want to segue. So we talk about black men and black women, but now what's his name? Zach Stacy. That was a white girlfriend. His white girlfriend.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. The violence that video is just so horrific, so disturbing to imagine. I found myself screaming, like, leave her alone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So which part? Just in general?
Just like the whole idea of like this man just, okay, I mean, if I recap, he beats his girlfriend. I think he pulls her, I know, slams her into the television.
Yeah.
And he also
he punched her in the face or the head.
Yeah, back of the head, right?
Yeah.
This is a footballer using the might, his full might, all that gym, all that exercise. You see like how this guy is like jacked and uses all of that strength to beat a woman, his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And the baby is right there on the couch, inches away. So he could have easily hurt his child as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of data that says that like football players in particular,
are violent.
Are violent. That the nature of the sport breeds not only like hyper masculinity, but it breeds this level of like, aggression. And even when you think about pinning down another person to win the game, it's a game of force, and it's a game of power and control and domination. And so, football players, a lot of athletes, but football players in particular, are definitely conditioned in a lot of ways to be violent against who they deem as being less powerful, or more vulnerable. So when I see football players doing this, it doesn't surprise me. I think seeing the video itself, we don't normally get that kind of footage where we're like, someone sends it to me and it's like graphic, whatever to continue, and I click on it and
it's like ridiculously, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
I was like, oh my God.
It means that it's happened multiple times, and I don't know, she just like decided she was going to record it this time or release it this time or put cameras in there because she had all angles. She knew
it was going to happen.
Right, yeah. She had all the angles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's not, I mean, again, these things, that level of aggression does not start overnight, right? So we know she knew what kind of person he was when he was coming over.
Well, I think they said he only started beating her when she had the child. And it seems like a similar thing happened with the baby when she said that after she had her child, he changed.
It changed.
What do you think it is about that?
I don't think
do they feel trapped?
Changed. I think that, domestic violence, there's a grooming stage and there's an escalation. I think it gets to a point. There are key points probably in a relationship. Maybe, having a baby, they feel more powerful. They feel like now they have you. With me. Yeah.
Right.
So there's probably certain aspects in a relationship that has signified the escalation to that point. But, just like we talked about red flags, I bet if we were to sit both of them down and talk about early on, even when things were, quote, good, there were things that we ignore because we want to make this work. So I do think that, like, I would be curious to know more about that when they say it just started or he changed. Again, we're talking about Dababy. Like, Dababy is like, he's crazy. Like, no, girl, he didn't just wake up when you had a baby and start acting crazy to you. Like,
you just didn't see it because you were like, wearing
you
rose-colored
didn't want to see it.
glasses.
Yeah. So as far as but the violent thing, I shout out to her for recording it and bringing light to it.
Right.
Because
and back to Zach, Stacy.
Zach, Stacy. Sorry, because that sort of violence definitely lives in the dark.
100%.
So like
I've never seen anything like that in my life
ever. And for her, that's probably like
a day.
I mean, she got up. She was still talking.
I didn't even know. That's what I didn't understand. Like, how did she have this power?
That's why I was like, this has happened before, but she's a strong woman. She was like, wait. I was like,
I know, why are you talking?
Look, me, I would have been playing dead. I'm going to tell you right now, I would have rolled over. I would have just been like, no, you could not pay me because, and that's what, seriously, like,
I literally was, I thought she like, wow, she's like, this has happened before.
This has happened.
She,
that to her, she treated that like it was a lightweight. Like it was like, okay, well,
Jesus Christ.
You didn't go too crazy this time, so, because it even felt like it was short unless it was edited. I was like, is this going to keep, I just think that like, I really commend her for having the forethought to record it, the courage to post it, because quite frankly there's nothing that feels good about people feeling bad for you. That's what a lot of times people don't report, simply because like, who wants you saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry, how did you let this happen, why did you stay for so long, right? So I commend her for that kind of courage, because that will absolutely change other people's lives. Being able to see the type of reactions and responses that people have to that will enable another person
to leave, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's important because of that.
Very important. So, and she's going to get justice. I mean, you can't.
What kind of justice happens in this type of situation?
I was going to say, you never have that kind of footage.
Right.
So it's always he said, she said. So in this kind of situation, I mean, the violence was so clear. It's probably going to be some child endangerment.
Definitely.
There was a child in the room.
Poor child.
So I think
is there jail
this
time
is jail
here?
time. I think there's jail time for this one. Right. Unfortunately, not often because, again, unless something severe, and who wants to, that's the sad part about domestic violence. Again, it's escalation.
Right.
So it could be that somebody pushed you up against a wall and it kind of scared you. Maybe you called the police, or maybe you said something and people were like, you should probably leave, but that's not.
But I just think, like, for me, it was the fact that he did all of that, and then he had the audacity to flee and run away, what a coward, right?
Yeah. Well, because the other thing is, I feel like these aggressors and perpetrators of domestic violence tend to be the biggest cowards. They depend on you not telling. They are ashamed when people know. These tend to be like upstanding citizens who are really good with people, who portray
sociopathy.
It's a very sociopath type nature. Yeah.
People always mix the two, but they're very different.
Exactly. I think you may know them again as being like, they may have, maybe you know them as having a temper sometimes, but a lot of times some of them, the scariest ones, you can't tell. You can see them out having a good time. You might tell that maybe, the spouse is meek in some ways, or like you say, you might read it as submission, but they're really good at playing it off. That's where gaslighting comes in hand very well. Oh, well, you know how she is. She's a little crazy.
But so you'll see tiny signs though.
You can sometimes. But there are
do you think some people you're just not going to see any sign?
Absolutely.
And they'll just start beating on you?
I think, no, I think that they're externally. I think there are people who can look at a couple and have no idea.
Oh, no, I mean within the couple.
Yeah. So
you will see the signs.
You will see the signs.
Right.
I think that the person in the relationship can, but I think that what I was saying about being a coward is you depend on other people seeing you one type of way. You don't really want them to know that you have this other streak, because there is shame.
Isn't that sociopathy though? Like part of sociopathy is like creating this public perception, which is like, and you get really angry if it's broken.
Yeah. Some people, are going to get angry and aggressive and violent if you say something. That's why you won't say anything. Okay, so you told them our business. And then so now you've created
that's my business.
fear.
The fact that you're beating me is my business now.
Right. Now it's our business.
Right.
I have to protect this for the household. That I have to protect your image.
Yeah.
Right. And so what she did too is she brought to light something that will bring shame to him. It will bring shame to his family. And good, because that's what they're normally like, depending on.
Well, I mean, I don't think the family, like the family stay out of it. They didn't do anything. Like, but him.
I mean, I think, personally, I would judge everybody.
In the family?
I would be like, how do you not know your child? How do you not know your...
mean the parents, though, but what do the siblings got to do with that?
How do you not know?
Maybe they do know. Maybe they're like, that one,
exactly.
We don't talk to him.
And I mean, again, maybe it's not fair, but I think those are the things that should happen so that you also teach your kids and you teach your brothers and you hold your friends accountable. Right, so everyone should share the blame.
I just feel like, me personally, I don't take responsibility for anybody else's actions. Like, it's just like, I know like that's an African tradition to like the shame of your family, but someone else that did something, I refuse to take any accountability. So like to blame me because a sibling of mine, maybe if it's your child, I can understand.
Sure.
That is violent, right? But a sibling, what does that have to do with me?
I mean, I don't know. So to your point, I think the shame, I think that the kind of African shame is a bit of a different conversation than accountability,
right?
Of the people around you. I think there are men who have friends who they know beat on their wives or do certain things, and they will turn the other eye, because it's quote not their business. To your point, you have siblings who maybe have tried to say something once or twice, but it's not their business. They can't be involved. I think shared accountability and blame makes it so that we have to
speak out.
Does
that make sense?
We have to raise our kids a certain type of way.
Right.
We have to, when we are seeing it at early signs of it, we have to call it out. We have to make it uncomfortable to do certain things and act a certain type of way.
Yeah.
Because if we wait until this incident, like what we saw with Stacy,
right,
where he is throwing someone up against the TV, rather than maybe his anger management issues that he started showing at 10, I'm just making that up, I have no idea, then we've allowed it. So we've been complicit.
I completely understand. Like me, I for one, as well as I will say, I don't take any accountability for anyone's, but I will be the first to call the police.
Yeah.
On a brother, a cousin, that's beating on his wife. Like I wouldn't even play with that.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. There are people that enable those environments to flourish.
Oh yeah.
And so yes, it makes sense in that case.
Yeah. I mean, and some people wouldn't care, right? Some people would say, well, that's his own business. Why is he getting in trouble? Whatever.
No, that's your business.
That's
like, why don't
everyone's business.
Right, for sure. Right.
That the safety of a person and their children, especially, that's the neighbor's business. That's the person on the street. It's called, and there's a term for it, empowered bystander. They have whole trainings on this that, when you see something that doesn't feel right or seem right, even if it's just a comment, someone has to hear that it's not okay. We're seeing that now in conversations around race and gender, right? Where now people are saying, oh, we can't say anything anymore. Well, yeah, we've created a world where certain behavior is just not acceptable
anymore, right? Accountability, very
accountability,
important, right? Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's just so unfortunate. I was surprised that she wasn't bruised up or anything.
I was surprised too, because I mean, that looked like that he threw her across the room.
I thought she was dead, the first time, So what would you say to anybody that's watching? Maybe they've experienced they're experiencing right now. They don't know how to leave. They feel helpless.
First and foremost, you're not alone. Most importantly, there are people who care. There are people who want to see better for you, who understand you to be deserving of better than what you're in. And it just all starts with speaking up. Say something to someone that you trust. And even if it's small and over time, recognize that your voice matters and you have a voice in this situation. And then also, you do have resources. You've got the domestic violence hotline.
Right.
That's a national hotline. You've got local hotlines that can connect you with shelters. Some people don't want to go that route, understandably, but say something to someone and just open up that conversation to allow yourself an opportunity for a better life.
And even if you say something to someone and the person maybe either gaslights you or shames you or whatever, keep speaking, keep talking.
Yes.
Somebody's gonna understand. You know.
You're right, though. That's a good point, because not everyone that you trust, unfortunately, understands the magnitude of the kind of situations that people are in.
I'm just even thinking about the people watching from Nigeria, where like it's even like enabled and encouraged, right?
Yeah.
But now there seems to be people speaking out about it, but I think it needs to happen more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because I mean, you know, I had a small conversation on this topic in Nigeria in 2019.
Right.
And even amongst, you know, my own peers, the conversation was, well, you can't tell a woman to leave her marriage. And I was like, well, to be clear, I wouldn't tell anyone to leave anything. I will tell them that I'm here when they're ready. Because it's not about telling people anything. When it's domestic violence, when it's sexual violence, it's giving them space to have a choice in their life. And when you're in these situations, you don't have a lot of choices. You don't have a lot of power over your own life, you know? So it's not, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to tell you that it's easier to be an unmarried woman in Nigeria or to walk away when you have kids and maybe it's not easy financially. I'm not here to tell you that, because I don't know. I'm here to tell you that what you're experiencing is not right, that it's okay for you to want better. You know, that you can live outside the confines of these kind of like social structures that, you know, we've placed on ourselves, especially in African culture, that says as a woman you should be married, you should have children, you should be settled, you should be subservient, all these things. If you want something different, there is a life out there for you. But you have to empower someone to make a choice for the life that they want, that they can live with.
Right.
And so that's really, you know, that's really my positioning on it.
Right.
And I understand, you know, that there are barriers, and you have to speak within the barriers and acknowledge them, or it's unfair and it's unrealistic. You know, to say, oh yeah, just, you know, so you have to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just moving on to a similar story. It was posted on, it was like circulating all over the internet, of this guy shooting at his girlfriend.
Say yes.
Where did you shoot that?
Is you gonna have my baby? Say yes, or the next one gonna hit you. Shh.
Yes.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
On, where'd you shoot it? Did you put a hole somewhere?
Is you gonna have my
Yes. Stop pointing at me.
If that is not a sign.
That's an example of one of those signs that, and you see she was laughing.
Struggle love.
Yeah. I think that that's an example. You know, you and I were talking beforehand when I said there are people who, you know, believe some level of toxicity in a relationship is the norm.
Right. Or even enjoy it.
They
like it.
They kind of need it. It's
Right.
like it stimulates them in some
Right.
way.
But I would say, what I was saying is they're either, I don't mean to say immature, but like they're not at a maturity level where they understand that peace is important.
Yeah.
Typically under 35, not to be like, and I'm not even 35, but even before that, I just don't even want a situation.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but some people, like, as you get older, you're just gonna realize like fighting for your life, it just doesn't make sense, especially not in your relationship.
Yeah. I mean,
know.
therapy.
Seek therapy if you like toxicity.
Therapy will tell you why. Therapy will help you unlearn a lot of things, and you'll start to see, it's not that I like toxicity, it's not that I like chaos,
Right.
It's that I like whatever, right? I like to feel wanted.
Right.
Get to the core of what doesn't make you feel worthy and why certain things make you feel more worthy than others.
So there are a lot of Black people, especially, that frown on therapy.
Yeah.
You see, I have a therapist, and what I found is that the healthier you are, the more, it's like working out, right? The healthier you are, the better you are at it.
Absolutely.
So like, if you're even if you're already healthy, why not be healthier in your mind? Because your mind will control every single part of your body.
Absolutely.
Everything that you do, the direction of your life. So why not fix that? And that should be your greatest priority.
Yeah.
Before even like working out, but working out is important too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's a holistic view of life to do them all at the same time.
Exactly right.
You know, so taking care of your mind, taking care of your body,
And your
even if
soul.
it's just a walk, right? Like I would, you know, do my little walk, but I do also am in therapy. I'm a big advocate for therapy.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, when we talk about these struggle relationships, oftentimes I hear people say, well, we just need to do couples therapy. No. You need to do therapy.
Right, exactly.
And they need to do therapy. And then you guys can become your best and wholest self.
Exactly.
Then you arrive and determine if in this state, when you've started to heal, if the person that you're with is even what you thought you wanted.
And they also say, like, don't even be in a relationship if you're not whole, you know, because like you're not going to be able to, if your cup is half full or, you know, and the other person's cup, you're going to drain each other.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny. I was talking about this with someone. I think there's like varying levels of that conversation because some of us are always going to be in transition, right? Some of us, you know, will reach our destination of wholeness and things can happen. Loss happens, right?
That's true.
Like so many, you know, so it is sometimes a destination we will never really arrive to. I think the awareness, the self-awareness is part of wholeness to a degree.
Okay, so what I define wholeness is not arriving at, you know, your peak.
Yeah.
To me, wholeness is stability.
Yeah.
Being able to stand on your own 2 feet holistically in literally every area of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I agree. I think wholeness is coping skills that are healthy because it's an acknowledgement that life isn't perfect and neither are you, but I have the tools I need to deal with difficult things.
Or even understanding yourself, understanding like if you feel like upset and maybe you don't understand why you're upset, search in your mind. Why am I upset?
Yeah.
You know? Understanding, being able to not lie to yourself. That's actually the most self-awareness and not lying to yourself.
Yeah. Because, you know, when we talk about these relationships, the Dababy situation and, you know, not Zach. No, he needs help in a whole different type of way. But I do think that you know, obviously, also amongst survivors of domestic violence, you know, you often find a lack of worthiness that they'll speak to. That, you know, well, how because this is not a victim blaming conversation. There is an active participation that happens in a domestic violence relationship that can oftentimes stem from not feeling as though you are worthy of anything else.
That's true.
You know, and so when we talk about wholeness, to your point, it's just like so many of us act out in relationships with people, friends, etc., due to a lack of understanding of our own worthiness.
Right.
And it comes from different little pieces that'll show up, you know, whether it's jealousy over this or, you know, anxious over that, you know, having a temper, getting really disconnecting from someone, not liking something, and instead of speaking up on it, just
disconnecting,
right?
right. And
you know, there's so many layers to it, and a lot of times we always arrive back at that conversation of worthiness.
Right.
For me, you know, going through therapy allows you to get to a point where you know and understand that just you as you are is enough. And that is without being the perfect version of yourself. Because I remember when I started therapy, I said, I want to be my best whole self. And she said, why?
Oh, mine too. When they hit you with the why, and you're like, I don't know.
Mean? Like everybody says that. Like that's what I thought I came here to do. You know, and they're just like, no. You know, what's wrong? Like, you know, and especially when you're saying for a relationship.
Right.
Oh, we know in a relationship, I want to show up as my best whole self. Why?
Right. Exactly.
Why do you owe anybody that you are, as you are worthy of everything
and you are
that
enough.
You want.
Right.
You are enough right now without having the whatever degree you're working towards, without having the car you want, without having the friends, without having whatever it is.
Right. And it's about not even seeking validation from anyone, just giving yourself that validation. You don't need, you're giving, like, almost like when people seek validation outside, you're saying to yourself that you're not worthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, if you look within and you're like, I'm enough. And you realize you don't need permission. I don't need permission to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
This is me doing, no one gave me permission.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to just see that you are love, you are enough. You are worthy, and
just
you don't,
as you are,
no matter what anyone tells you. Also, getting away from environments that have either low vibration, toxic, will also help you. But just always remembering that you are enough. You don't need anything else.
Yeah, and it's hard in a world now, right? Social media, where you have filters,
Right.
you have images of lives that are seemingly better than yours.
Right.
You've got all these examples of things that you have to aspire to. So we are constantly aspiring to something, thinking that once we arrive there, we'll finally feel like we're worthy of all the things that we want, right?
But instead, you get there and you want more.
And you want more.
Delete Instagram. Don't be like, I delete Instagram like probably 10 times a week. Because like it just like distracts. It's such an app that distracts you. So like I'm not
Yeah.
even trying to get. If I
Yeah.
feel like I'm on it too long, I'm.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's true. And I think that, you know, when we try to understand struggle love
Right.
and struggle relationships, we have to understand struggle self-love.
That too. And just to that point about struggle love, it's like people think that they lack the worthiness that, number one, without a relationship, like being alone is so bad that it's better to be with in a relationship where like it's a toxic situation,
That's it.
right?
That's it. Being alone is so bad, especially 30 plus as a woman,
Right.
to other people,
Right.
that you really start thinking, okay, should I just hop into this thing that doesn't bring me joy and doesn't bring that level
Right.
of satisfaction that I know I deserve? The answer is no.
Can I just say, as a woman, because I was just telling her earlier, like there's some videos I've seen of women that are either like in their 70s, 100, and they're healthy and they're doing well, and every one of them has said, what is their secret to success? And they said it's being single, cutting men out of their lives.
When it comes to living a long life, most people might tell you to stay away from junk food, cigarettes, or alcohol. But Jessie Gallen says the key to longevity is staying away from men. And we'll take her word for it because she just turned 109 years old on January 2nd.
She still lives alone and reveals that's been a key to less stress.
I think the secret of 107, I never got married. I think that's the secret.
70 years old?
Yes.
Seven?
Yes.
7-0.
Yes.
What is the secret? What is the key to your youthful appearance?
It's interesting because I found myself at the age of 21 getting a divorce and with a son.
I've been single since 1958, and I think it was a real advantage for me in terms of finding out who I am.
Aside from that, statistically, women that are unmarried live longer than women that are married, and men that are married live longer than women. Sorry, men that are married live longer than men that are unmarried.
Yeah.
So So don't feel like you need for your worthiness or whatever. You don't need a man for that. You should be able to give it to yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's such an important step as we try to understand what we see. I watch Iyanla Vanzant,
right?
Who I used to think she was hilarious because her show is so extreme. But she asked a question. She has asked it a couple times. When you have trauma victims, and she asks it a lot when women are in relationships and men are in relationships where they're either being cheated on or abused. And she'll say, you know, what story are you telling yourself that made you feel that you had to accept this? And it stays in my mind. In fact, I honestly remix the actual line every time because I forget exactly what she said. But because she is able to get to this idea of, again, active participation in situations even where you are the victim. So whether it's a victim of violence or you're a victim of someone talking down to you or someone cheating, etc., that there is still an active participation of how you arrived to a situation that demeans you and puts you down. And there is in some way something that you have to acknowledge. You don't have to blame yourself. You don't have to demean yourself.
No.
You simply say, what is it though? What's in my spirit?
Exactly.
What storyline
am I telling myself?
Have I told myself?
So many things that you said there, like, it's the stories that we tell ourselves that determine our outcome in life, right? Or our existence in life. You can tell yourself that you are pathetic and whatever you tell yourself is true. And I hate to say it like this, but if you believe that you're pathetic, you will be pathetic. If you believe that you're amazing, you will be amazing, right? But there's something else that you said that also, like, you there's so many things. There's so many things. Yeah. There's a difference between analyzing yourself to deconstruct yourself and put yourself down, and analyzing yourself so that you can understand yourself and bring yourself up.
Yep.
Right. And so just understanding that it's okay to go back and look at yourself and look at your intentions so that you can pick yourself apart to build yourself up so you don't make those mistakes again. It's okay to do that. You know?
Yeah. It's identifying patterns.
Exactly.
You know, it all boils down to patterns. What, you know, how am I arriving here every time? I say I want this, but it's not, the world isn't doing it to me. You know, how am I arriving in these scenarios and these situations and these relationships that continue to seem reminiscent of the last thing that I said I never wanted again?
Right.
To your point, there's a story you're telling yourself around a level of worthiness. And then beyond that, there is, you know, you are choosing what feels comfortable.
Right, that's true.
You're choosing what you know.
Exactly, that too. And also, you are what you attract. So if you haven't healed from the past relationship, and you're still sort of in that mindset, you know, ask yourself, why am I attracting a toxic relationship or toxic? And it's not necessarily that you're toxic, but something about you, about maybe your vibration, your level of consciousness, something about it is in the same state as the other person's. So elevate your consciousness, elevate your vibration, and you'll find that you're not even close to you know, those types of people.
No, I mean, you have to, like you said, I don't necessarily speak the language of vibration and don't always understand it.
Well, have you heard of the consciousness map? This is like a long ass conversation.
No.
Right.
Okay, this might be a different one.
But just a quick breakdown of consciousness map. They say there's over 1 million levels of consciousness, but in his map, I'm going to show you the map here. At the bottom of it, I believe, is shame, and then guilt, and then it just keeps going up, and it goes up to, if I can get my phone and bring it, so I can be accurate.
Yeah. Now shame, that's a whole nother conversation.
Right. So when I say low vibration, that's what I'm talking about, right? So at the very bottom, you see shame.
Yep.
You have guilt, you have apathy, you have grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, and it goes all the way up, right?
Okay.
And you'll find that, well, based on what he said, like the U.S. government is moving in the courage area, right?
Okay.
And he gives examples of who, like Gandhi. I think he said Gandhi was like at 540, or inner love, it might have been 500.
Okay.
But like but also in your life, you can go up and down the consciousness map. You can, enlightenment is at the top.
Yeah.
You can go all the way up, because you could be enlightened, and then you could come all the way down. And some of these, like guilt and shame, it can come to you, but it's the stories that you tell yourself. Are you going to let yourself continue to sit in this shame?
Right.
To me, shame is a wasted emotion, waste of emotions, waste of time.
Yeah, it's a tough
Guilt,
one though.
I hear it's tough to overcome it, but it's like there's this whole other conversation about just because you tell yourself something in your head doesn't mean that it's true.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever about this, like you asked, why do I feel ashamed about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do I have to be tied to this? I don't want to feel ashamed about it. Let it go.
Yep.
Right. But don't restrict it. Just let it pass through your mind.
Acknowledge it, and it's easier said than done. But it's a powerful tool. I agree.
But this is all therapy for me. That's got me to this place.
Yeah.
For sure. So I mean, hey, get a therapist if you want to learn more about this. Go check out the consciousness map. Do you have any other things to say about what we've discussed today?
No, I mean, I think that's it. That hits it right on the head. A lot of these situations have consistencies throughout,
right? Both
on the side of the victim and of the perpetrator,
right?
So, understanding those patterns and then understanding what patterns we're finding ourselves in,
right?
I think that's the deeper conversation,
right.
Beyond the social media and the reposts. When it leaves the headlines, what are we learning about ourselves and about our own patterns and our own relationships? And how can we start achieving what we want? How can we start aligning our lives and our choices with what we want?
Well said, well said. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. My name is Kenim, and this is Nneka, and see you next time.
Bye.